Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Cinnamon Stitches. I am your yarn host, Jennifer. Today is a informational video because of Mr. Cinnamon. Mr. Cinnamon was at work a couple days ago and he texted me out of the blue and he was like, I got a question for you. What is a yarn band? So I tried to explain to him what a yarn band was. He's all, why do people do a yarn band? I don't understand. This was like, well, for the most part, people do a yarn band because they feel guilty about how much yarn that they have purchased, or like, I think a lot of times it's guilt, because I've heard, and I even, after Mr. Cinnamon posed the question to me, I posted in the Facebook as a whole, tell me what your opinion on yarn bands are. Like, why do people do a yarn band? Because I clearly don't, and I never will. And I'm perfectly okay with that. I got a lot of answers, and a huge majority of the responses were guilt. And they didn't say guilt because I don't think they realized it was guilt, but they felt they had too much yarn. So it's time to stop buying until they used it up. Or, well, husband said that I have too much yarn, which I think that is bull. Husband should never tell their wives they have too much yarn. Never. And Mr. Cinnamon agrees with that, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. My kids said I have too much yarn. I have too many, they call it my hoard. And so that kind of leads back to the whole guilt thing, is they feel guilty for having too much yarn. I will never use this much yarn. Okay, so what if you don't? You have like when you die, let's go to this. When you die, there's a lot of things you leave behind that maybe you're not going to use after you're dead. Yarn is one of them. Your clothes you're not going to use anymore in your lifetime. Like, you used it while it was here. You know, so I don't understand that either. Like, yeah, I have more yarn that will last me my entire life. I am perfectly happy with that. And when I die, my husband and my children can sell all these yarns. And I already gave them directions how to do this. I'm like, hey, I'm cool with you selling it at $1 a skein. Because, like, some of this yarn is worth more than $1 a skein. Some of it is worth way more than $1 a skein. But the amount of skeins that I have, like, that will give them a good profit. They'll be able to bury me. Although I do have life insurance, so I'm not worried about that. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, go on vacation or something, you know? This is your inheritance. $1 a skein, we're good to go. So I think, and I told them a lot of times I think it's either guilt. They feel guilty. They feel bad that they have so much yarn, whatever. And the other reason is finances, obviously. Like, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. So put yourself on a yarn band, save up for the yarn. Like, that's a good idea. But I don't like the idea of a yarn band. And a lot of people in the comments on my Facebook group were also saying, like, it's like making a New Year's resolution. Like, it doesn't last. It's too hard to stick by that restrictive of a band completely. And so we're going to talk about that today. We're talking about yarn band. Mr. Cinnamon's response back to me was like, why would anybody ever do that? He said to me, is it so that they could prove that they did it, that they were strong enough to do it? Like, the concept of a yarn band is like he just does not get it. He don't understand why anyone would do that to themselves, because he sees how much joy that yarn brings to me. But with saying that, I have some things that I wrote down that I also want to say as well, because you don't have to go on a full-on yarn band. You don't. But what you do need to do is you need to keep your expectations reasonable. A lot of us podcasters have beautiful walls of yarn behind us. And I mean, it's not just this. I have yarn, like, floor to ceiling in this room. It is not a reasonable thing to aspire to have this much yarn. However, when you are a podcaster, for me personally, and I can't speak for any other podcaster because I'm not them, but I will say this is my job. Okay. So I stock my room with the tools that I need to perform my job properly. Purchasing yarn is part of my job. I make money doing this. Most people don't. So to aspire to have this and it's not your job is not really reasonable. I mean, if you want a room full of yarn, fill your room full of yarn. If that's what makes you happy, do you, right? But I also know that there's a lot of people that are like, and maybe they just started their channel and they're like, well, I don't have a yarn wall like Cinnamon Stitches. Baby, you don't need a yarn wall like Cinnamon Stitches. This is not reasonable. It's not. I know that it's not reasonable. You don't need a full background of yarn. You can have a plain black background with maybe 4 skeins of yarn, and you can make a video as good a quality as I make. It's not going to matter what's behind you. People, that doesn't matter. You can make a good video and not have a wall full of yarn. You can make beautiful projects with 2 skeins of yarn. You can buy only yarn from the Dollar Tree or the thrift stores, and you are as well stocked as I am because you have what you need to complete your project. So I just want to say that, like, I purchase such a huge abundance of yarn because that is my job. That is how I make my money. That is how, and a lot of the yarn, like I make the money through the ads on the channel. I make some money through, and my affiliate links, trust me, they make me like this much money. Like it's minimal. And I mean minimal. It's not enough to buy me the yarn that I buy in a month. But my ad revenue, like all of these things help to pay for the yarn. So it's not actually coming out of my family fund. It's not actually coming out of the money that takes to pay the bills or put food on the table or clothe my children in any way. That money is completely separated because it's my YouTube money. It's my AdSense money. It's, you know, it's all of that. So this kind of recycles itself. It pays for itself. And if you don't make money on YouTube enough to supply yourself with this yarn, it just doesn't make sense to buy the way that I do. So that's why I do highly recommend, if you are going to watch yarn haul videos, don't buy it every time we show it, because there's a lot of us that are like, hey, look what I bought. Have a little notepad next to your thing when you're watching our videos and write down a list. And then when you can afford it, or when you really want to splurge on yourself, or wait till there's a good sale, honestly, just wait till there's a good sale. And then you can pick, oh, I really wanted that yarn because Cinnamon Stitches showed that to me, or whoever showed it to you. Just, you know, write that down. Keep a list of the yarns you want to try, and, you know, just don't buy willy-nilly. Don't buy willy-nilly. All right, let's see. My notes. That's because I wrote notes. Don't compare yourself to other YouTubers. I said that. Here's the thing. Here's another good idea. If you want to go on a yarn ban because you already have too much stock, I suggest you don't hoard it. Don't keep it forever. If it doesn't make you happy, get rid of it. And I don't mean throw it in the garbage. I don't mean put it in a landfill. There are so many places to donate your yarn to, or your old supplies to. I have a box by the front door right now. It is stuff that was sent to me for specifically donations, and it's filled with some yarn that does not bring me joy. That's my new bird clock. It'll go off again. I know you can hear it. It's really loud. I got a bird clock for Christmas from Mr. Cinnamon. It makes bird noises. So if you ever hear like 3 repeats of a bird, it's my clock. So back to donations. Yes, you can absolutely donate your yarn to like the Goodwill, St. Vincent de Paul, like whatever thrift store is local to you. There are a lot of crafters that cannot afford yarn, and they rely heavily on thrift store yarns. And I personally love going and seeing what I can find at the thrift stores. Donate it back into the community. If there is yarn that has just been sitting there for 4 or 5 years and you maybe don't like it because of the color, you don't like the way it feels, or maybe it's really splitty but you paid too much money for it, it is okay to let go of your yarn and put it back into the community and actually buy yarn that makes you happy, that fills you with joy, that is soft and luscious and beautiful colors. And it is okay to do that. I last year took and cleared off all of my shelf of Red Heart Super Saver with the exception of 3 skeins. I kept 3 because I really love the colorways. I got rid of my Red Heart Super Saver ombre. It was beautiful. I had all the colors. I got rid of it because I tried to work with it and it made my hands bleed. This is not a stab at Red Heart Super Saver. If you love it, you love it. That's fine. But for me, it did not bring me joy, and I did not enjoy working with it, and I would not ever reach for it, and I knew it. And it was just taking up room on my shelves. And so I was like, I'm going to go through and pick out all of the Red Heart Super Saver because I don't enjoy it. And with that, I also threw out some old wind tuck that I didn't throw out. I did not throw out. I pulled out the old wind tuck that maybe I had, or some of the old crusty yarns that are from the thrift store that just did not bring me joy working with them, and I was not reaching for them. So when you see my yarn, like I recycle it, I put it back into the community, and the places you can do that is not just thrift stores, schools, art departments at schools, elementary schools use yarn for a lot of projects. They love having excess amounts of tools for their kids. There has been several times where all 4 of the kids that I have helped raise, my 2 and my 2 nieces, would come home with a project that required yarn of some sort. They either needed to like tie a little string around a snowman, or they actually made, I don't remember what kid it was. One of the kids came home and needed to make a paper snowman. So I quickly crocheted a little tiny scarf to put on the snowman's head or neck. So like art departments at elementary schools they love getting like yarn supplies, any kind of art supplies you have left over, stickers, tapes, glues, paper, anything like that. Call your local elementary schools and see if they can use it, or even like high schools could probably use. I know that during the pandemic, Juju, who's 16 now, was doing homeschooling, and her art teacher was having them come up with all kinds of weird like stuff that, because it was a sculpting class, but they're not sculpting in a class because it was homeschool. So she was trying to think of ways for them to use stuff around the house, and I was like, well, I got a room full of supplies. So art departments through the schools. Also, there are, and I've told this before, there are crochet clubs and crochet and knit clubs through either senior centers or retirement villages, old age homes. Colleges have knit and crochet clubs, and they always could use donations. I donated 5 large black garbage bags filled with yarn to the college that my niece goes to last year. They were actually a little bit overwhelmed by how much yarn I donated, but the person I donated to said that they give out yarn and hooks to the people that come in and want to learn how to knit and crochet. So it's like, hey, now you have lots of supplies. And not only that, like the college kids can use it as well. Like they're on a budget, so if the yarn doesn't make you happy, you're feeling overwhelmed, so you feel like you have to go on a yarn ban till you use up all that yarn, but there's yarn in there you don't like, donate it. Put it back into the community. There's so many people that want to craft it, can't afford it, that need the yarn. Or there's people in facilities that want to knit and crochet because they love it, but they're in a facility. So just keep that in mind. All right. I think I said this, be careful watching the yarn haul videos. I kind of did say that because I said make a list instead of constantly wanting to buy. And I know it's hard. It's hard. I do the same thing. Kim from Affordably Crafting is like the worst for me to watch because, and I have to really be careful with her because she is a bargain shopper, because she is affordably crafty. She's constantly on the looks for deals and steals in the crochet world, as she said. I think that's how she says it. She goes thrift shopping. She looks for clearances. She shops like the overstock shops like Ollie's, and she has another store called Ocean City Job Lots or something like that. And so I have a hard time because I'm like, there's so many times I'm like, oh, I want that. But some of her stores I don't have down here. I'm like, oh, I should email her and have it. And I'm like, no, I am not emailing her and having her buy me nothing because I don't need it. So like, I do have a hard time with like, I want everything she shows all the time. I do have a hard time with that. And I know I'm not the only enabler out there. All of us podcasters that show our yarn hauls or show what we're buying or show what yarn we're working with or give yarn reviews, it is very hard not to just want to buy all of the things that they show. I personally have experience with that. I personally struggle with wanting to buy all of the yarn all of the time. Every time there's a new yarn on the market, I'm like, oh, I gotta try it. I want to feel it. I want to touch it. I want to smell it. I want to squish it. I want to just all of it. I want all of the yarn. You have to be reasonable with yourself. You have to really be careful with the yarn haul videos. And right now, because of the new kitchen remodel, like I don't have extra funds to do yarn haul videos right now. So like I'm really struggling, and I'm like, I just want some new yarn. I want to go to Michael's and blow money. I want to order from Lovecraft. I get it. I do get it. So here is another thing that I have written down. You need to set a budget, or you need to set a limit on yourself without completely banning yourself. If you're on a yarn ban because you feel that's what you need to do, I'm not trying to dissuade you. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm not trying to make you stop being on a yarn ban. But to me, it's just too restrictive to not buy yarn. If there's something that you really need for a project, buy it. If there's something that you really want, don't buy one in every color. That is not necessary. You don't need to do that. You buy a skein to try it out. Just set budgets and set limits. And I do that. Even with all of the yarn that I purchase for the shop, for yarn hauls, for the shop. This ain't a shop. It looks like a yarn shop sometimes. But for the channel, the yarn hauls that I do for the channel, the yarn hauls that I do for reviewing the yarns, or the yarn hauls I do for whatever, I still set a limit. I set budgets. I no longer go, if I get to $75, I get free shipping. I pay the free shipping unless the only time I do this is if I am so close to getting free shipping that it would be like getting another free skein of yarn. Like if the order is, if you get $75 for free shipping and I'm at $70, and so shipping added on to that's another $8, it would be more than getting to the $75. And if you're close enough to that free shipping thing, I will throw another skein of yarn in to get to that. But it's got to be like really close to where it's like getting free shipping or getting another free skein of yarn. You know, it has to be that close. I don't push myself to get free shipping anymore. And I used to. Well, I got to get to $75 so that I can get free shipping. Well, that's nonsense if I'm only really needing $25 worth of yarn. I'll pay $8 for shipping. You know, because most of the time I order from Premier Yarns, and like it's usually like $8 to $11 for shipping for me because they're 5 hours away. It's like it's down the road, you know. So just be reasonable. I mean, I'm with Mr. Cinnamon. I don't understand the yarn ban thing, and I don't. And it's okay if you do, and that's how you have to survive, or that's how you have to do. If you have to be on a yarn ban for some reason because you don't have finances, it's okay if that's what you have to do, or you feel like you have to do. For me personally, and Mr. Cinnamon, I'm so blessed to have him as my husband because he would go broke to make me happy, and I'm just not the person who would ever let him go broke. But he fully supports my yarn. He knows and he sees. It makes me smile. It makes me happy on the inside. When I'm sitting there with my yarn and making something, I am so at peace inside myself. And being as though I've suffered from anxiety and depression my whole life. I mean, from I was like 2 years old, I remember being in panics from childhood trauma. So yarn is like peace. It's like, unless I'm working on a baby blanket that I hate. But I don't understand self-deprivation to that point, to where you're miserable. I don't understand that. I think you just need to follow some rules, like set limits for yourself, set a budget for yourself. Don't ever compare yourself to another person's yarn stash. Don't do it. That's poisonous to yourself. Just love your own stash, no matter how big, no matter how small. Just love it. Take care of it. Keep it cleaned out of the rubbish yarns that you're not going to use. And then you can have a happy and healthy existence with your yarn without having to ban it from your life. Because yarn loves you. It doesn't want to be banned. But that's why I will never ever in this life go on a yarn ban. And with that, I'm not into self-deprivation. I will let you guys go, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.